So hello everybody, I'm Lucy, welcome back to my channel, and today I have my top 15 books of 2015. So I may not have met my reading goal for 2015, which was to read 50 books. This year has been a horrible reading year for me. I've not really read as many books as I would have liked, but hey, I've read some incredible books, and so this video is to tell you guys all about them. So 2015 has been an incredible year for new releases. Lots of debuts, which I think is brilliant, and lots of new series by my favourite authors. So let's get started with the books that were my favourite books of this year. The first book is the conclusion to one of my favourite dystopian series of all time, and that is End of Days by Susan E. This is the conclusion to the Angel Fall series, and I'm not going to go into detail on every single book I'm showing here. A lot of these books I will have done book reviews for, so I'll leave down below in the description where you can find all the reviews about the books that I'm talking about. This book was phenomenal. What a conclusion. I was a bit gutted because originally I think this was supposed to be a 6-part series, and this ended on the 3rd book. It was still an incredible series though, and I love this author, I love this series, and I'd recommend you read it if you haven't already. The next book was possibly one of my favourite books of the year. This cemented this series as one of my favourite fantasy series of all time, and it is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. I will leave the link to my review in the description bar, but this is the 4th book, I believe, out of 6 of Sarah J Maas's Throne of Glass series. As I said, I talk about Sarah J Maas so much on my channel because I'm so in love with her writing and her books, and this just completely stepped the series up just like another 10 notches, and it's one of the best YA fantasy series that I've ever read, I've ever come across. And this book was just phenomenal. It's a very, very big book, but it's a brilliant book, and I would totally recommend this. The next book is a debut novel. It's a debut dystopian, and so much hype has already been around this. I had the pleasure of working on this, but it is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. So this book, I love it so much. It's very fast paced, it's very gripping, and it's already taking like bestseller lists by storm. This was a #1 New York Times bestseller. It's a series that I can predict is going to be huge, and film rights have already been acquired, and the sequel, Glass Sword, is coming out in February. I'm currently reading a proof of the sequel, and it is even better than this one, so I know you're all going to love it when it comes out in February. But the first book, Red Queen, was one of my favourites this year, and if you've read it, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. My next favourite book of 2015 is actually a series of books. It is the Mistborn series. So I am so thankful that I decided to read this in 2015 because it's a series I've always wanted to read, and it is a series that has become quickly one of my favourite series. It's a brilliant adult fantasy series. It's very, very broad in terms of ideas and volume of pages, but it's a brilliant 3-part series. It's actually been extended to 6 or 7 books, I believe, so there's more to come. And also, this world is just amazing. Brandon Sanderson is a genius, and I would recommend, if you've not read this book series, to just get started. You will not regret it. The next book was another surprise for me this year. It was The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black, and I reviewed this at the start of 2015. I really remember loving this at the start of the year. It's about fairies, it's very dark, very twisty, and I just loved how fast-paced this was. It was just really, really gripping, and I fell in love with this. I also raced through this, and so that is why this secured a place in my favourites. The next book is the uncomparable Six of Crows, and this by Leigh Bardugo. This is just one of the standout books for me in 2015. This is the start of a new series by Leigh Bardugo called The Dregs, and I've done a book review on this, and I've also interviewed Leigh Bardugo, so I'll leave the link down below. Amazing. I can't even say anything more. It surprised me, it knocked me out of the water. It was nothing like I was expecting, and my heart was broken and just complete again, and I absolutely adore this book and can't wait for the sequel next year. The next book is another debut, and it is An Ember in the Ashes, and this is by Sabaa Tahir. So this book just completely blew me away. It's set in a Roman-inspired world, which, me being a bit of a history buff, loved that. It's very, very dark. I didn't expect it to be this dark, but it is very kind of gritty. It's really got a no-holds-bar approach to the writing style, and it's just very unique, and I would really recommend this. This was actually one of the standout books for me as well. And I can't wait to see what Sabaa Tahir does next. The next book isn't a dystopian or a sci-fi novel. I know, I'm shocked too. It is Simon and the Homo Sapiens Agenda, and it's by Becky Albertalli. So this book, I just loved it so much. This is my personalised proof, thanks to Penguin. Very, very sweet of them. And this book completely surprised me. This is about a gay protagonist, and he hasn't come out to his friends, and he's having an online relationship with this boy called Blue. And it just is a very contemporary, very real love story. It's also about those teenage years and friendships. This is just brilliant. Please pick this up if you see it around. It will blow you away. The next book is an adult historical fiction novel. It is The Miniaturist, and this by Jessie Burton. So this is historical fiction, as I said. My big love affair is with historical fiction. This is set in, I think it's 16th century Amsterdam or 17th century Amsterdam. I fell in love with this so much. I raced through it. I savoured every page because I just wanted to be in that world. And it's worth all the hype. I would honestly say that. It's become such a blockbuster of a book, but it's one of those books that deserves every single amount of praise it has been thrown, because this was incredible. I would say this would be one of my favourite books of the year just because it surprised me so much. I didn't expect to be so blown away. And I haven't actually reviewed this book on this channel because I didn't really know what to say about it other than it was amazing. So if you haven't read this yet, please try and pick it up. It will blow you away and you won't be surprised. You will love it. The next book is, I know I keep saying that each book is my favourite book of the year, but this one's probably my favourite book of the year. It is A Court of Thorns and Roses, and this is by Sarah J Maas. This is the start of a new fantasy fairy tale retelling series by Sarah J Maas, and this book is about fairies, and it is the best book I've ever read. This is kind of borderline YA NA, so it's kind of a lot grittier than YA, and I freaking loved it. This has cemented in my head that Sarah J Maas can do anything she wants. She can write whatever she wants and I'll read it and I'll probably love it. So I can't wait for the sequel. I can't wait to see where this book series goes. And I also interviewed Sarah this year, which was amazing. It was one of the best experiences of the year for me. I will link that video down below. It's where we talk all about ACOTAR, and I asked her loads and loads of questions, and we just had an amazing time. And yeah, watch it if you haven't already. I'm sure you'll enjoy the interview. The 11th book on my favourites list is Crimson Bound by Rosamund Hodge. I've banged on about this so much this year, and for that I am sorry, but it needs to be done. This book really surprised me. I really enjoyed it, and the cover is just, it's a beauty. It's a beautiful book. This is a fairy tale retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, and this is no sweet little innocent fairy tale retelling. This is very dark, very gritty, and it will kind of hold you at the throat and will not let go. It is just honestly one of the most enchanting books that I've read all year, and Rosamund Hodge does absolutely fantastic fairy tale retelling, so this really stood out for me as well. I love fairy tale retelling, so do leave your recommendations down in the comments if you know of any really good ones. The 12th book on my favourites of 2015 is 1,000 Nights by E.K. Johnston. So you may have seen the video that I did in partnership with Pan Macmillan to promote this book. This is based on Arabian Nights, and it's a retelling again, I guess, but this is just the most enchanting magical tale. It is beautiful. It is a work of art, and it truly appreciates the form of storytelling. I will leave my video link down below where I completely just praise this book, but this was the most enchanting read of the year for me, and I read it, I think, back in April. I read a proof, but this jacket and all about this package is just amazing. It was just a book that really stood out for me, and it's a book that I can't wait to read more around. I can't wait to see what more the author will write, and this was just an enchanting tale. I loved it, and I think you will too. So the 13th book on my list is Asking for It by Louise O'Neill. This book just, I couldn't do a review on it. It was too dark, it was too gritty, it was too real life, and I didn't want to say anything without doing a lot of research, so I didn't do a review of this. But it was one of the most standout, brilliant books of the year. It was raw, emotional, and it was just absolutely brutal. This is a story about rape, and it's honestly one of the most illuminating and eye-opening books that I've ever read. And I feel like if there's any book that anyone should read, it should be this one. If you haven't yet read Asking for It, please do. It's not a book that will, you know, you'll fall in love with. It's not that type of book. It's an important book, and I think it needed to be in this favourites because it was brilliant. Brilliantly written, brilliantly well researched, and the message behind it is very clear, and yeah, nothing more I can say about that except you need to read it. The next book is another debut. It's an adult contemporary debut that was released this year, and it's called The Versions of Us. This was a hardback bestseller. There was loads of hype around it, word of mouth, everything, and I read it and I fell in love. So this is the story of two people, and there are different versions of their lives. So this is a story told 3 different ways. 3 different possible ventures and journeys for these 2 people, and how their lives will play out in different scenarios if they did different things. And the central feature about this book is what if? What if you hadn't done this, or what if you had done this? So I just absolutely fell in love. It's not often that I read adult contemporary fiction, but this was brilliant and just so refreshing. So I adored that one. And finally, my last favourite book of the year is the brilliant I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. So I'm not sure if this came out last year or this year in the US, but it definitely was released in paperback here in the UK. So this was the first year that I've ever read any Jandy Nelson. I fell in love with her this year. I'll Give You the Sun was absolutely incredible, so moving, so emotional. I cried several times. I've just fallen in love with her. So now I feel like I need to read more Jandy Nelson. So guys, those were my top 15 books of 2015. To be fair, I may not have read a lot of books in 2015, but I feel like I've read incredible books. So I can't wait to see what I'll be reading in 2016. I'm sure it'll be a brilliant year. Tell me what your favourite book of 2015 is down in the comments. I can't wait to hear what your favourite books have been this year. And until next time guys, bye!